Welcome to season 15 of the Parenting Aces podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and this week we are talking college recruiting, but more importantly, readiness for college recruiting. And I have with me an expert in Shaquana Miller. Shaquana is a former college athlete, a former college coach, a current college coach, assistant coach, and has worked in compliance at the collegiate level with the NCAA. So she comes to us with so much experience and so much information. She recently started a company called Next Play Athletics Consulting. And in that role, she works with student athletes and their families to help make sure that the student athletes have ticked all the boxes to be eligible to compete in their sport in college. So I'm excited for y'all to hear from her. She has graciously offered a discount on her services to the Parenting Aces community. So be sure to check the show notes on parentingaces.com or check our community discounts page on our website for that discount code. Also, Shaq has offered to do a parent information session for the Parenting Aces community, which we are going to schedule sometime in February. So if you are interested in attending, if you have a player who wants to play in college, they are in 8th through 11th grade, and you are interested in learning more about what they need to do to be ready and eligible to play at the collegiate level, please either shoot me a message, email me, text me, communicate with me, however that works for you, so that I can gauge how many people we would have for a session like that with Shaq. So now sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Shaquana Miller. Shaq Miller, thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy busy schedule to do the podcast. I am so looking forward to chatting with you, to learning more about your work with student athletes and helping them have the best college athletic experience that they can have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crux of our conversation today is going to be about recruiting and maybe some of the common mistakes that student athletes and their families make when going through the recruiting process, and the work that you do through Next Play Athletics to help these families avoid some of those
Mhm.
pitfalls. So I want to just start by asking you how you got started in this line of work, because it's not so common, and we'd love to know a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So I got into this work because I currently work in higher education. I work in athletics. I've had a lot of years being a college coach, starting off and then getting into administration. Most of my line of work have been with compliance. So the previous universities, I've been an assistant AD for compliance, student athlete success, senior women administrator, and all of that ties into compliance and how we, one, get our student athletes to be eligible when they come into college, but also the student athlete experience that you are referring to. And so I was transferring and moving to another university, and I still wanted to do something that had an impact. So with my entrepreneur background, I mean, this is something that I love. I always say I've been an entrepreneur at heart since I've been born, literally, because everything I've done kind of led me to this point. And I said, what can I do that can make an impact? Because I've seen so many of the challenges that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And how can I help that? Because I've seen so many student athletes coming into higher ed or coming to colleges, Division One, two, and they were ineligible. And so I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And they were all some of the common things, again, which we'll talk about later. And that's when I did a lot of research. I did a lot of conversations and asking parents what could help them early on at the high school level. Because some of those common mistakes that we see are at the high school level that we can help so that way they are eligible coming in. And that's when Next Play Athletics was birthed, with the prayer and a lot of research. Um, I just been working with student athletes, families, I work with high schools and districts, kind of getting them educated and well versed and equipped to helping those student athletes and those families kind of navigate this complex space that most people don't talk about. And I'm in right now. I am an assistant AD at a school in Anderson, South Carolina. So I like to tell people like this is my work, this is my purpose, this is what I feel like that I've been on this earth to do because I see how it impacts people and it helps them. So when you have a business that also solves a problem and that you have a solution, but you also can impact them in a great way, it's a no-brainer. And so I love what I do. And yeah, that's how I got started.
And your passion just oozes out of you. So I this is going to be so fun.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think I shared this with you when we were talking offline a few weeks ago that when my son was going through the college recruiting process, of course, our first point of contact was his high school guidance counselor, who we had to meet with throughout his high school 4 years to make sure that he was on track to graduate, to make sure he was taking the proper courses. And she knew from day one that his goal was to play college tennis. But she was very upfront with us and said, look, I can make sure he meets the academic qualifications for the NCAA because I know about that. But beyond that, I am really not going to be much use to you guys. And you really need to seek out somebody with that expertise. And that, Shaq, is that role that you fill, right? When the guidance counselor is like, eek, I don't really know how to get you where you want to go. Call Shaq and she can come in and work with you. And so maybe let's start by talking about some of the most common errors that you see high school athletes and their families make when they have set the goal of playing their sport at the collegiate level, whether it's NAIA, junior college, Division One, two, or three, doesn't matter. And how do we help these student athletes avoid these errors?
So I like to start with one, the communication, right? Just because a student athlete plays at the high school level, that doesn't mean that their goal is to play at the college level, right? So I like to tell guidance counselors, have that communication. What are your goals beyond high school? So that way, automatically, that conversation is started. So you know, okay, this student athlete wants to play at the next level. I also like to tell parents and student athletes when I have parent sessions, you have to self-advocate for yourself. Have that conversations with them. This is a two-way street, but this also helps them to be accountable and be a little bit more responsible and have right communications and conversations with people when you want something. So that's the first thing that I like to tell overall. And that's one of the common mistakes. They don't have those conversations. So by the time that they find out, they being the guidance counselors, a lot of times it's too late. And so, what I mean by that is their transcript and their classes aren't set up based on their goal. Now, I hate to say this, but there's so many people, and I'm actually doing a research on this, and the numbers are just very high. And so, that's why I'm also coming in to educate so many people that everyone's goal is Division One. Everyone can't play at the Division One academically and athletically. And so what does that look like? So let's just say Division One is your goal. Okay, there's something called the 10-7 rule. That means that you have to have met 10 of your core courses by your seventh semester, which is typically going into your senior year. Now, if I'm a guidance counselor and I don't know that, and I haven't set them up for success, then they automatically would be considered a non-qualifier because I don't have the core courses in place for that student athlete. Also, another thing that I see that's a common mistake are them and families not understanding that the NCAA GPA is different than what you might have on your transcript. So we go off of core courses. And so when I talk to students all the time, even in my coaching days, oh, I'm going to be good. I have a 4.0, I have a 3.9. But what does that convert for the NCAA? And a lot of times they're below the criteria that they need. So not having that knowledge is important. Um, and then
Can I
also,
interrupt you 1 second?
yeah,
Because I think this is news to me. I didn't realize the NCAA GPA calculation was different than the high school. How does it differ?
So there's something called, great question. There's something called core courses. The NCAA has every single high school to upload classes that the NCAA has to approve that would be considered core courses. They're courses that kind of the NCAA feels that would help them to be able to be academically sound at the college level. And so those courses are your English courses, your social sciences, social studies, science classes, world history, philosophy. Then you also have something like your Spanish classes, French classes, whatever classes you may take that are world language classes. And so what they have to do, counselors, they have to upload that to a portal that the NCAA creates for them. And so every year, that's what another thing that we see. Core courses are not uploaded in a timely manner. So there may be a class that the student athlete is taking at the high school level. It's on the transcript, but it's outdated because it's not updated on the NCAA portal for their high school. So that's how we determine that GPA. So at the Division One, you have to have a 2.3. At Division Two, you have to have 2.2. And so those things, and so when we're looking at transcripts, and I look at transcripts so much, it's my main bread and butter. I look at what the course is based off of their grade level. Now they're going anything below Division One, then it's easier, but Division One is a lot more rigorous. And so if you don't meet that criteria and you're a non-qualifier, you don't get scholarship, you can't practice, you can't play. So what do that you normally do? You go to other divisions so that way you can play. But knowing what those core courses are for your school is going to be important, and that's what we, the NCAA, based off of, as well as for us as compliance officers. That's what we look at. We don't look at anything else. So,
Yeah.
main
Yeah,
thing.
that makes sense. But so in junior tennis now, virtual schooling, homeschooling has become
Big.
increasingly popular. What is the onus for that in getting courses uploaded and approved for the NCAA? Is
So
that
the
onus on the family or on the program, or how does that work?
It's a little bit of both on the program as much. When a program that someone is doing for homeschool, there is actually resources for those that attend homeschool because the NCAA have seen such an influx and increase of those attending homeschools. We have about maybe 15% at our institution, and that's really high compared to what it used to be just 5, 10 years ago. So they, being the NCAA, have made it a lot easier for those that are attending homeschool to be able to kind of determine what they need in order to still be eligible to play at the next level. So we have, excuse me, everything available to them. And definitely on the NCAA site, it just can be a little bit difficult to maneuver. And that's where someone like myself and my team with Next Play come in. We ease that process because there is so much information out there.
Yeah, so I would say to the families that are doing virtual school or homeschool, please reach out to Shaq
Yes.
because I'm just going to put that out because the last thing you want is for your child, tennis wise, to be ready to play at the collegiate level, but have a glitch in their academic record. And it's something that can be so easily fixed if you catch it early on in the process. But if you wait till junior or senior year of high school, it could be too late to get them qualified to play. So, especially at the Division One level. So, okay, so I interrupted you. I'm so sorry. So we talked about common mistakes being communication being the biggest one, and my audience knows I'm so big on communication here. The second is making sure that their academic record fits what the NCAA is requiring.
Absolutely.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, and then I would say the third one is, and you talk about juniors and seniors, there's something that the NCAA has. It's an academic checklist. They have it a year by year planning. And so the main thing is not having an NCAA eligibility center ID number. You can call it whatever it is, NCAA ID number. You get it and it's generated once you sign up on the NCAA eligibility site. Now, there's three different types, and it explains on there which ones, and people are still confused. So again,
Yes.
that's what we help them with. And let me tell you why. I have a student athlete now that is trying to go to our institution, and he is, I would say, a partial because he doesn't have everything he needs. One of those things, he didn't check the right certification account. And so a lot of people think that it's the free profile one, and unfortunately, it's not. Now, you can do that your freshman year, you can do it your eighth grade year. Just go ahead and just get that number generated, right? And that's the free profile count. Once you get into your 10th grade year, now the form says your junior year. I like to say 10th grade year because people still forget. So let's just go back to 10th grade and go ahead and get that paid account. And that's going to be for your athletics and your academic account, which is your certification account. We like to call it amateurism and athletics, but it's interchangeable in the terms. I think it's about $110, and that opens up literally what everything you need, and it also will let schools know that you have the right account. So if you become or go into your junior year and you're looking at schools and you want to get official visits, those are one of the requirements that we have to have per the NCAA to even offer you an official visit. And that's having a transcript, of course, it's unofficial, and then having the right account as well so we can have that number. Um, but
So
on
let me interrupt you again. I'm so sorry. I keep
there,
interrupting, but but stuff is popping up
yeah,
in my head. So,
absolutely, it's
you
fine.
know, decades ago when my son was doing this, there was one type of eligibility account through the NCAA Eligibility Center. And I always have told families, that Eligibility Center is your place to go if you have questions. They are so knowledgeable and so willing to help. But I don't, was it 5 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, where they instituted these different types of eligibility center accounts.
Hmm.
And it is very confusing. So you're saying in as early as eighth grade, go ahead and sign up for the free account, but by your 10th grade year, you need to enroll in that paid account that will then put you on the radar of college coaches and allow them to actively recruit you. Am I summarizing that properly?
Yeah, so we can
Okay.
actively recruit anyone, honestly, but I mean, the right grade level and all that. We can look at people, conversations, all that. But what I'm saying though is when we have to activate you on something called IRL, and that's something that is like a compliance term that we use for the NCAA. And if I can't find your account because you don't have the right account, then we can't do anything further from that. Um, and so the document that you will get from your NCAA, again, it says your junior year to go and pay for it. But I like to tell student athletes and families, go ahead and just do it your 10th grade year. So that way you won't forget. Because people, one or two things, they either forget or they either don't know. More of them don't know. And so by the time I like to have a conversation with them, just go ahead and just get the paid account by your 10th grade year. So that way you don't have to worry about it. Going into your 10th grade year, you're ready to rock and roll and kind of go on those visits per your school that you are designed to, compete at. Um, and so with those certification accounts, which yes, it was just very few, but now it's just a little bit more so that way they can categorize them. And again, people don't know where they fall in. And so that's why we like to help them. And then we try to explain to them the different accounts and why it's necessary. because a Division 3 school doesn't have to have the certification account for amateurism and for athletics. It's totally different. And so that's where all of those distinctions come into play as well. And so that's a main thing that I see. So a lot of times when I'm going to schools and I'm doing parent nights, I see a lot of parents with literally, they look like a deer in headlights because they don't even know what the NCAA eligibility center is. They don't know what an NCAA ID number is, and their kid is a senior.
Yeah.
So it's just again, where we have to educate at the high school level, having parents and ADs involved to understand, like, hey, this is what you need, but they're overworked, they're overwhelmed. And that's another thing that I found through research and why Next Play was created is to come in and help with those things so they can worry about, the day to day, and we can worry about, the things that we are experts at.
Right. And I mean, just, in the tennis world, again, a lot of times the high school tennis coach is a social studies teacher or, they're not coming from the recruiting world. They haven't played collegiate sports themselves, potentially. They certainly, in most cases haven't played college tennis themselves. And so they are not a reliable source of information in terms of the recruiting process. And like we said earlier, the guidance counselors aren't always up to speed on the latest NCAA rules because we know those rules are constantly in flux. And, year to year things change. What applies to Division 1 may not apply to Division 2 or 3 or JUCO or NAIA. So it's really important to have somebody in your corner to explain all of this. And listen, parents, if you have the time to do your research, more power to you. But this isn't one of those things where you want to mess around. You want to make sure you're within the parameters of what the NCAA is requiring because your child is working too hard to have their college playing opportunity limited because you forgot to check a box or sign up for something that was easy to do.
Easy to do. And I see it so many times. And again, this is why I said to myself, there has to be a better way to fix this or to help as many as you can. Because I would get, especially at the initial enrollment phase, so many parents calling me, so many parents in front of me just crying because their student athlete can't play that first year. And so then it's just, a heartbreaker for me because it's not something that we could have done on my end because my day-to-day job is for those that are in college, and they're just saying, well, I didn't know, no one told me, my AD didn't know, my counselor didn't know. And those are the terms and the words that I hear so often. And again, parents are paying a lot of money to get training, one-on-one training, to go to all these different camps and tournaments and to have themselves exposed so they can go to their college of choice and play their sport of choice to not be able to have the small things. And so that's another thing. Everyone wants to talk about the athletic side of it, but the main part, the most important part is what I do on a day-to-day basis. And so it's the boring part, but it's so crucial to them being able to be eligible coming in initial enrollment. And so, I mean, we've been hitting the ground running, providing as much education as we can across the East Coast and hopefully soon the West Coast.
I love it. I love it. Tell us a little bit more about what your services include and what a typical contact with a student athlete and their family might look like.
Okay, so let's talk about a typical contact. Most people can go on any of the social media platforms I have, as well as the website, to contact me for a complimentary. We do a 15-minute discovery call. And at that call, I try to ask as many questions. We like bullet fire with those questions, so I can see if I can be able to work with them. There have been one or two cases where I said, I just don't want to take your money. That's not the role of what I'm trying to do, and that's not my purpose. I'm trying to make sure I get you eligible. If I know that you aren't going to be eligible, I like to tell you early on because a lot of times there's nothing that we can do once you get past that 12th grade year where you're already about to graduate and you don't have the classes that you need. You're going to be ineligible coming in. So I like to tell them that, and then they're very appreciative of that because most people could try to take their money and try to do other things. And I'm like, no, you're going to be ineligible more than likely your first year, So this is what you could do moving on. And then I try to, help them from there. But normally I can work with people and kind of fix or remedy and mediate anything that there is that we could see, any red flags. So that call, it helps me to kind of see what this looks like. And then from there, I give them information on what I feel is the best in terms of our sessions that we have, because we have different sessions where we have one-off sessions, we have sessions where it's a little bit longer, and we can kind of go into the nitty-gritty. I give everyone what I like to call a game plan. And that game plan is a layout of everything that they should be doing. And it's a little bit easier to read for the student athletes and families. And then me, I come in and I'm checking up on them. We do calls. So I do have something called um, the full ride package where no, we don't guarantee a full ride, but we give you everything that you need. And it's a 90-day program. That program, we go month to month and we kind of hash out all the nitty gritties, all the red flags I see. And this by this time frame, I need you to be here. I give them templates so that way they can be able to communicate with coaches via DM or email, something that's really overlooked because student athletes like to communicate to coaches as if they're the best friends, as if they're someone that they know, they're the homeboy, the homegirl. No, this is a professional setting. So this is how you should communicate with them. I give them follow-up templates. I give them everything that they need to be successful. They are provided what we call like a college tracker. And that college tracker is all the colleges that you want to attend, their major, your major of interest. Do they have your major? Because what we find also, student athletes want to play the sport there, but they want to be an engineering at a program at a school that doesn't have an engineering program. So helping them understand that this goes hand in hand. If I'm going to a school and they're going to pay for my tuition, I want to make sure I get the best out of it, i.e., a college degree of my choice in my program. So we do everything when it comes to that. We also work with schools and school districts, and we do those parent night sessions. We make sure they have their ID number so we can go in a computer lab and show everyone. And we do tutorials on how you do that and how you go through that. So we try to see everything that we've seen from our experience. I go through transcripts and kind of see where they should be, where they want to go based on their goal. I do what we call social media reviews as well. So I look through the social media platforms and say, okay, if this is where we want to be, then we need to take some of these things off. And I'm really honest with them because coaches love to go through someone's social media page, i.e., Instagram, because if they already know the talent, they want to see what the person is personality wise. A lot of times they might can't go to their camp or their tournament or what have it. And so a lot of times they can see those things through their social media pages. So we do all those reviews. We try to hit it. We like to say a trifecta. So we work on compliance, we work on academic readiness, and then we work on recruiting strategies. It's not like it used to be, Lisa. It's not where I can just play a sport and I can just, go to college and play that sport. No. And I tell people it's a strategy. And with the rules changing so much, you got to know what the game is so that way you're a better player in that game. But you also got to make sure that you're getting things done in a timely manner because time is of an essence. I've literally seen a college coach who's given a prospective student athlete information and directives to contact them with X, Y, and Z things. Their transcript, it was two other things they needed because I was copied on it. That student athlete didn't give them in a timely manner, and guess what? They moved on. Because when coaches are coaching, especially during their recruiting phase, they want to make sure they get what they need. And a lot of times to coaches, that's a red flag to them that you don't know how to communicate. I've given you what I need you to give me in a timely manner, and you haven't done that. So it's small things like that that make a huge difference that people do not realize that we look at on our end on the college front.
And I will say, in tennis especially, there is a huge effort by college coaches to recruit internationally because
Absolutely.
coaches are trying to get the best players that they can get. And there are a lot more hoops that international players have to jump through than American players. So if you are an American player, get those little things done. Make the coach's job as easy as you can to position yourself to be the choice over that international athlete that may have all these additional hoops to get through before they're even eligible to be recruited.
Absolutely, which is a lot, you know? And so, what we like to tell everyone is just making sure that you take this as serious as anyone else. Again, like I tell parents and student athletes, even for me, when I ask for things, I like to tell them, hey, your parent is paying money to have this service. I need you to get this done. That's when I put on my coach's hat and like, look, I need you to get this done because this needs to be done at this time frame so we can move on to the next step of the game plan. And that game plan, again, is a step by step way that we have things so it's easier for them. But a lot of time, kids, even with that, with us paying, they're dragging their feet. And so the parents have to get involved. And so it's a lot. And with the dynamics of college athletics and how it is, people at the high school level, high schoolers don't have the pleasure that they have before. You know, they have to work harder. You know, they have to be, I wouldn't say the best of the best. Of course, we all want the best of the best. So I don't want to think that if, someone isn't, that they can't get in, they can. It's just about the right fit for them also. So we're looking at so many different things.
So you mentioned the parents, and this is Parenting Aces. So I want to talk a little bit about what you see the parents' role as in the college recruiting process versus the student athlete's role.
Oh, I love this question. Here's why. I like to plug this into my presentation about parents. Parents love to take the back seat at the wrong time. And let me explain why. I tell parents, you need to be the manager of this student athlete. This is your student athlete. You have invested this time, this money, these resources to get them where they need to be or where you aspire them to be at the college level. And you need to be on top of them, right? This is it's I like to say it's a team effort, but I see so many parents keep it to or leave it up to the AD, the coach, the counselor, the principal. No, ma'am, no, sir. You need to be involved because I like to educate parents just as much because they have such a strong presence when it comes to their student athletes and they can push them as well. But again, this is a team effort and I need you to have on that manager hat and that manager role so that way we can get these things accomplished and done. So that way in 4 years, 5 years, that your student athlete is going to college of their choice with the right amount of scholarships, and you can kind of then sit back and let them be the student athlete that you did so much for them to be. And what I also like to say with that is sometimes you do have helicopter parents where that's a little bit too much. So it's knowing that right balance because I can tell you now, coaches for any sport do not like helicopter parents at the college level because they like to be responsible for the student athlete. And we know that these are your kids, right? These are your babies, but kind of just scaling back. But it's all about the balance. Helping your student athlete again know how to advocate for themselves, know how to communicate their wants and needs when they go on a visit. I've seen so many times where I've seen at official visits and unofficial visits where parents are having more of the conversation and the student athlete is not saying anything. We want to hear from the student athlete as well. So help them, guide them. That's where you put that manager role on and kind of show them this is how you should have a conversation. So we do that as well at Next Play when we know that there's official or unofficial visits. We kind of help them and do role playing on how the conversation should be for parents as well as for student athletes. So that way people can see this is a team effort, and that way you can maximize your scholarship dollars as much as possible as well because you're asking the right questions, you're looking for the right things.
Yeah, I love that. And, again, people that have been watching or listening to this podcast for a while know I'm a huge advocate for student athletes driving their recruiting process themselves. There are so many incredible life skills that they learn along the way. And yes, the parents have to put on that manager hat and make sure they're asking the right questions at the right time. But also, parents, you have to be willing to take a little bit of a step back. Don't be the one writing the email for your student athlete. Don't be the one calling the coach. Don't be the one scheduling the visits. Let your athlete take the lead in that, because first and foremost, as Shaq said, the college is recruiting your student athlete. Yes, they're looking at the whole family because they're looking for a cultural fit and they want to make sure that the next 4 years are going to be pleasant for everybody. But first and foremost is the student athlete and their interaction with the coaching staff.
Absolutely. And I know for me as a former coach, once I recruited the student athlete, I actually have this conversation with the parents. Once your student athlete steps foot on our campus and have signed and they're here enrolled, I don't talk to parents anymore. And so they kind of like gasp. And I'm like, because at this point, my job is to help them and steer them in the right direction, guide them, give them those life skills. Now, if there's an emergency, absolutely. But for small things, if your kid isn't doing what they're supposed to do, I'm not going to call you, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm paying for them to be at our institution. It's a job at this point. So when your kid goes to work, even if they're in high school at Wendy's or McDonald's or wherever they might be at that high school level, you don't get phone calls from them. So we're not going to do that because we want to make sure that we're giving them, especially me as a coach, everything that they need. But when it's appropriate, we will have conversations. And they respect that and they love that about me and how I am as a coach because I do communicate that up front. And if you're someone as a coach, I mean, as a parent that doesn't like it, then guess what? That's not a program that you need to be in. And that's, again, what's important. Looking at what's a best fit for you and your student athlete as well. I like to tell parents that also when you're going on campus for an official visit, they're going to pull out all the bells and the whistles, the red carpet, blue carpet, whatever carpet they can find at that time. But go back on that campus if you have time, if it's close by. See how it is when the red carpet isn't pulled out, when the bells and whistles are put away, because that's where you really can see the culture, the environment fit, if it's a fit for you or not. Talk to some of the professors, talk to people outside of athletics because on the academic side, you're going to need to have your student athlete there as well. So it's really important. I tell people this is a huge, huge commitment for your student athlete as well as for parents. So doing those small things makes a huge difference because you don't want them getting into the portal because it's something that you missed as well. Like, oh, I didn't know that they didn't have this, or, this wasn't a good fit for us, and now we do know there are things that happen where it's not parent, coaches changes, all those different things. But again, if you do the small things up front, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's not the end of the world if the school that you choose to go to as a freshman in college isn't the school that you graduate from as a senior.
Mhm.
Um, like Shaq is saying, you can't always pick up everything, but it is important to pay attention to those red flags. And I love what you said about, go for the official visit, but then go back and check it out when they're not putting the big sales pitch on you. Because let's be very clear, college coaches during recruiting, they are salespeople. They are selling you
Are.
on their university, on their athletic program, on themselves as coaches and their staff. And the best thing you can do is to kind of peer around the curtain, talk to some of the current players, talk. Really, the best thing you can do is talk to recent graduates, or if you
Absolutely.
can track down people who have transferred away from that university, find out why they transferred. What was it that didn't work for them there? And is that something that is important to you that you need to pay attention to?
Great, great, great feedback. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, at what stage should families be reaching out to you, Shaq, and engaging your services? Is it elementary school, middle school, high school? When?
I say high school. That's the most important for what we do and how we kind of guide them. Even as a ninth grader, a lot of times they're like, oh, that's too soon. But a lot of times, then, if we were to do that discovery call, we wouldn't say, hey, do the full ride package because you're not at that phase, right? So we would tell them a package that's a whole lot less time. So that way we can kind of get them started and get them laying the foundation for them. So we don't really say 10th, 11th, or 12th. Definitely not 12th grade, because at that point it is it's so different and it's so much more difficult to get them on track. But we like to really say like ninth and 10th grade year because we want to help them during the recruiting process as well. Normally, and if you're a senior, you're already at that phase. Actually, some of them aren't. So they're so behind with everything. But if we can get them on the front end, which is why we created Next Play, then we can kind of help, navigate those spaces so that way we can catch those red flags early. So that's the whole purpose of Next Play.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, the last thing anybody wants is for a child's college opportunities to be limited because they missed a core class or their GPA isn't at the right level. And these are all, as we've been discussing, fixable things as long as you catch them early enough. That
Absolutely.
said, if you're a senior now and you're listening to this, and by the time this airs, it will be your final semester of high school, it's still not too late. There are always college programs looking for players. So, Shaq, let's talk to those second semester seniors for a second. What are some of the things they can do if they haven't signed on the dotted line yet? They haven't committed, they haven't been accepted to a college, they don't have coaches knocking down their door to come play on their teams. What are some things they can do at this point in time to still have an opportunity to play their sport at the collegiate level?
Wow, such a great question that most people don't ask. Even though we see it so much. You again, making sure all those things are done. So making sure you have your NCAA ID number, make sure you have the right certification account, make sure you have everything, your I's dotted and your T's crossed for those things. And I like to tell people you have to hit the ground running. If that means attend more opportunities, whether it's CAMs, individuals, more film, updating your film, this is the best time right now. And I know you said by the time it airs, it'll be their second semester. But again, just reaching out and doing your due diligence by contacting those coaches, being where they are. If you know that they're going to be in South Carolina on March 15th and you have the opportunity to be there, then that's where you need to be because that's the school of your choice. So it's just working a little bit harder so that way people know who you are, where you are. And that's another thing that I see a common mistake. Student athletes and families think that they'll find us, and that's not always the case. There's so many student athletes out here now. So you have to kind of put yourself in a position that they know who you are and that you're face to face with them in some kind of way. Um, and so I say when you have everything done, it makes it easier when you do get that opportunity to have that conversation. Now, yeah, they might not be beating down your door, no, but there's always going to be some schools of your choice. So then I like to tell people, okay, are your expectations a reality? So are we looking at D1 schools and you're not D1 talent at the time or meeting the academic rigor for academics that they're looking for? So then you have to go back to the drawing board and seeing what your GPA is, seeing if you've taken the NCAA, I'm sorry, the SATs and the ACTs, which the NCAA does not require, but some schools do. And they're looking at those things. What does that transcript look like when you are going to those schools? Are you meeting that particular requirement? So again, then we have to kind of look at things and kind of go back to the drawing board and say, all right, we might need to adjust this game plan a little bit and have a different type of strategy. It again is all a strategy, it's all a game plan, it's kind of knowing. A lot of times when people aren't beating down a student athlete's door, I find it is that their expectations aren't truly a reality for the school that they want to attend.
Well, and in tennis, especially, unless you are top 10 in your recruiting class, the reality is you have to do the work. You have to do the outreach. The coaches aren't, you're not necessarily on their radar. But the other piece of this is there are so many incredible programs outside of Division One. So even if you don't meet the academic requirements or the talent requirements to play at a Division One school, there are some incredible Division Two, Division Three, NAIA, junior colleges where you can go get the major you want, get the training and competition that you are seeking, continue to grow as an athlete and as a student, and have a great college experience. Also, in terms of junior colleges, a lot of kids, and I'm saying kids because as a high school senior, they're still kids. They're still developing and maturing. A lot of them are not ready for a full 4-year university experience at age 18 or 17 or 19 or whenever, however old they are when they graduate. Junior college is a great way to kind of buy yourself a little extra time to work on your GPA, to work on your tennis skill, and to get on the radar of some of these 4-year universities that weren't looking at you as a high school student.
Yep.
Junior college coaches are incredibly well networked. If you go into a junior college and play on their tennis team and let the coach know what schools you would love to target for your third and fourth year, those coaches are going to help you. They're going to reach out to the coaches at those other schools and make those connections for you if you go in and work hard and show them that you're deserving of that.
Yeah, and with so much going on these days, you hit it on the head because honestly, we look at retention as well from a university standpoint. And so ninth grade, I'm sorry, Lord, freshman and sophomore year are really crucial times at the college level because they're still trying to transition without mom and dad being there or auntie or grandma, being that person that's in their ear that making them wake up and making them do their homework. That's not always the case, and that's never the case, actually. So a lot of times, them retaining and staying at the university is very slim because they aren't used to that. And I tell people now, junior colleges is not built the same way that it used to be. Honestly, I want to say some of the most competitive student athletes are at your junior colleges now because they know, okay, I can get more years by going to junior colleges than going up to Division two and one. I can get so much more, so I'm better prepared at that level because in a lot of sports, and even in tennis, I've seen it. It's not your normal 18, 19-year-olds. Like we have 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds now. These are grown men and women. So knowing those things, junior colleges are getting some quality student athletes. And again, that's where the competition really is now, and people are navigating to that space.
I love it. I love it. All right, Shaq. So if people are interested in reaching out to you for that discovery call or just jumping right in and signing up for one of your programs, what's the best way for them to reach you? And let me just preface that by saying we will have all these links in the show notes on parentingaces.com or wherever you're consuming this podcast. So don't worry about having to take notes right now.
Yep. It's www.nextplayathleticsconsulting.com. And then we'll make sure we have.
And let me just say, make sure it's athletics with the S, because I made the mistake of trying to find it without the S, and it, nope.
But we'll make sure we have all of that so it's easier for them as well. Yep. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Lisa.
Yeah. And so once you go on the website, I believe there's like a pop-up where people can enter their email address and get on your list to get information. But there's also spelled out on the website the different packages that you offer, including the discovery call. So I want to encourage everybody, just go to the website. If you have a student athlete that wants to play college tennis, or if you have other kids that are interested in other sports, Shaq can help them as well. But check out her website, check out the programs that she has to offer, sign up for her information, and get on her radar, because I promise you, it will make your life and your student athlete's life so much simpler if you are working with Shaq or somebody that understands the NCAA and understands the recruiting process inside and out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I look forward to working with anyone. And we might need to do a code so that way we can get some of your listeners in so we can take care of them.
I love that. I'm all about the codes and all about the discounts for the Parenting Aces community. Junior tennis development is quite costly, and
Yeah.
anything we can do to help reduce that, I'm all in. So thanks for that offer, Shaq. And we will have any codes in the show notes. Again, parentingaces.com or wherever you're consuming this podcast. So take a look at that. It'll also be on our community discounts page on our website. So we have all of our discount codes available for you guys there. Shaq, what a pleasure to meet you and chat with you and learn more about the work that you're doing. And I hope you come out west as well. If you do, I'm hoping we can meet in person. But for the parents out there, if your high school doesn't have somebody like Shaq on board, you might want to suggest to your principal or your athletic director that they bring her in. She can do things via Zoom. It doesn't necessarily have to be an in-person thing. But the better educated we all are about college recruiting and the steps our student athletes need to take to be eligible to compete at the collegiate level, the better off we all are, and the much more calmly this process will go. So please, please, please make sure to reach out to her. Shaq, again, thank you so much for taking time out. It's a busy time of year. We're recording this the week before Christmas. So I so appreciate you taking time to chat with me.
Thanks for having me.
To my audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.